The chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so tense. From one end of the colossal amphitheater to the other, alien delegates sat in towering seats carved from crystal, metal, or organic bone, each designed to reflect their culture's pride. The ceiling stretched upward into shadow, lit by constellations projected from 1,000 worlds. Voices clashed like storm waves, booming, hissing, clicking, arguments overlapping until the air itself trembled. The subject was the Eclipsera, Swarm. They had been a whisper once, raiders gnawing at the edges of the galaxy. Now they were an avalanche, consuming colonies and entire sectors, leaving behind only ash and silence. One empire after another reported attacks. And yet, despite the danger, the council was fractured. The swarm is unstoppable, bellowed a scaled warlord from the Dracon Dominion. Our fleets must retreat. Protect our core worlds. Let the border systems burn. Cowardice. Fear. The words stank of it. Another voice, sharp and nasal, cut across the hall. Appeasement is possible. They want resources, not war. We should offer tribute before it is too late. Murmurs of agreement rippled through sections of the chamber. On the edge of the hall, the human delegation remained silent. Humanity was new to the council, barely 50 years into interstellar politics, regarded as young and reckless. Their diplomat, Ambassador Ilara Vey, had sat unmoving throughout the chaos, her hands folded, her eyes burning with quiet intensity. The council's speaker, a creature of living light, flickered toward her. And what of humanity? You have been quiet. All at once, the eyes of the galaxy turned toward her. Giants whose empires spanned millennia, insectoid monarchs who commanded legions, energy beings older than suns. They waited for the little human. Many expected platitudes. Others expected silence. No one expected defiance. Ilara rose slowly. Her voice was not loud, yet it carried with uncanny clarity, resonating as though the chamber itself wanted to hear her. You speak of retreat, of tribute, of bending knees to a swarm that does not negotiate, does not spare, does not stop. She let the words hang, her gaze sweeping across the tiers of alien leaders. You hope to buy time by sacrificing others, but time will not save you. The swarm devours all. A murmur of unease rippled through the hall. The Draken warlord snarled, but Ilara pressed on, her tone sharpening like a blade. Humanity has faced extinction before. We know what it is to stand on the brink. We know what it means when all odds are against us. And we learned one truth. Survival does not come from hiding. She took a step forward, her shadow stretching across the marble floor. Survival comes from standing together, from fighting back, from refusing to yield even when the darkness closes in. Her words gained strength with every syllable, echoing with raw fire. Delegates shifted uncomfortably, the weight of her conviction pressing on them. Some sneered, but others leaned forward, drawn in despite themselves. You call us young, naive. Perhaps we are, but I will tell you what I see. I see empires older than our species, paralyzed by fear. I see leaders who once claimed to protect their people, now eager to abandon them. And I see a galaxy on the edge of surrender. The chamber fell utterly, silent. Ilara's voice rose, fierce and unflinching. But humanity will not surrender. We will not pay tribute. We will not kneel. If we stand alone, then so be it. We will fight until the last breath, the last ship, the last soul. Because better to burn free than to live as slaves! The words struck like lightning. A surge of emotion rippled through the delegates. Shock, anger, awe. For a heartbeat, the council sat frozen. Then Ilara spoke the words that would be remembered. For centuries, join us. Stand with us. Let the galaxy rise as one against the swarm. Let this council be remembered not as the day we cowered, but as the day we declared war. This is my call to you, to arms, to freedom, to survival. Her fist slammed against the railing, the sound cracking through the silence like thunder. And then chaos. Some delegates erupted in fury, denouncing her as reckless. Others shouted in agreement, their voices ringing with newfound courage. The chamber, once stagnant with fear, now boiled with fire. News feeds captured her speech, broadcasting it across the stars. On distant colonies where hope had withered, her words reignited it. On oppressed worlds, whispers became chants. Across fleets, soldiers stood taller, readying for battle. Entire civilizations stirred, their people refusing to be forgotten sacrifices. Back. In the chamber, the Draken warlord slammed his claws against the floor, his booming laugh echoing. "Human! You have fire! If you will fight, then so shall we! The Dominion does not cower!" Others followed. The insectoid monarch raised her many arms in salute. "The Hive stands with humanity!" One by one, voices declared allegiance. Not all, but enough. A tide was shifting. What had begun as a fractured, fearful debate had become the first step toward a galactic resistance. Ilara Vey stood amidst the storm, her chest heaving, her heart pounding. She knew the cost. War would burn worlds. Countless lives would be lost. But surrender would have meant worse, a galaxy consumed. In that moment, the Council had been shocked into awakening. The galaxy would not go quietly. The voice of a single human had ignited the stars. The Galactic Union Chamber was a marvel. An endless dome suspended in orbit above a dying star, its walls shimmering with holographic banners of every world bound by the fragile peace treaty. Yet on this day the banners seemed more like funeral shrouds. The air buzzed with fear. Delegates of empires older than recorded human history argued over the same question. What do we do about the Harrowed? The Harrowed had come from beyond mapped space. They struck without warning, with fleets of blackened warships that tore through defenses like paper. Already 3 systems had fallen, millions of lives gone. And yet the Council's leaders spoke not of defiance, but of retreat. "We cannot risk open war," hissed the glass-skinned envoy of the Miral Syndicate. "Every engagement ends in slaughter. If we withdraw to our core systems, perhaps the Harrowed will not pursue." The chorus of agreement was loud, desperate. An avian senator flared his wings in protest. "Cowards! Abandoning the border systems will doom half our allies. The treaty binds us," but the counter-arguments drowned him. "The treaty is broken already. No fleet can hold against them." Humanity's delegation sat silent until now. At their center stood Marcus Darren, Earth's first appointed diplomat to the Union. Tall, broad-shouldered, his dark suit plain. Compared to the jeweled robes and armored plates of alien aristocrats, Marcus looked ordinary, unimpressive even. Many didn't bother hiding their disdain. Humanity was new to the stars, a species barely out of its infancy, but Marcus's eyes were steady. He had watched every world speak, every excuse, every cowardly justification, and he had come prepared. When the Speaker of the Union finally turned to him, expecting a brief, irrelevant remark, Marcus did not rise slowly. He stood at once, voice ringing with iron. "You talk of retreat. You talk of treaties broken. But you hide the truth. The Harrowed will not stop." The chamber quieted, surprised by the force of his words. They are not raiders seeking plunder. They are not conquerors seeking tribute. They are eradicators. We know this because we intercepted their transmissions. A ripple of shock cut through the delegates. Marcus raised his hand and a holographic feed projected above him. Intercepted signals cracked and translated by human AI. The words, alien yet chillingly clear, echoed through the chamber. "Consume all. Leave none. Silence every star until the galaxy is cleansed." The hall went utterly still. Marcus let the silence sink in before continuing, his voice low, controlled, but sharp enough to cut through steel. "And yet here you sit, debating whether to beg for mercy from those who have none. You would abandon allies, abandon worlds, because fear tells you it is easier to hide than to fight. His gaze swept the tears of alien leaders. But you cannot hide. They will come. Not just for the border, not just for the weak. They will come for you. The speaker flickered uneasily. Human, your words are bold but reckless. We must preserve what we can preserve. Marcus thundered, slamming his palm against the railing. The crack echoed. Preserve nothing! To preserve means to resist, to fight! Anything else is surrender disguised as logic. A Drathari noble sneered, mandibles clacking. Easy for your kind to speak of war. You are young, with little to lose. Our civilizations are ancient, our people too numerous to gamble on foolish defiance. Marcus's reply was fire. You call it foolish to fight for survival? Then what? Is wisdom waiting for the axe to fall? Watching your children slaughtered while you whisper that you bought one more year of life? Humanity has faced annihilation before, wars that nearly consumed us, enemies who sought to wipe us out. We learned one thing. Survival never comes from hiding. It comes from standing, from fighting, from daring to believe that freedom is worth blood. His words rolled across the chamber, pulling at something buried in every delegate. Shame. He leaned forward, voice quiet now, but searing with conviction. If the treaty means anything, if unity is more than a hollow word, then now is the time to prove it. Stand with us, raise your fleets, call your armies. Let this be the moment the galaxy chose to live rather than die. And then, with a breath, he delivered the call that would echo across history. Rise with us, to arms! The chamber erupted. Some leaders shouted in rage, decrying him as a reckless fool. Others stood, voices trembling but resolute, declaring they would not abandon their people. The fracture lines of fear began to mend into something new. Resolve. The feeds carried Marcus's words across the galaxy. Colonists on the edge of despair heard them and felt hope for the first time in months. Soldiers preparing for retreat instead stood taller, gripping their weapons with renewed purpose. The smallest civilizations, long ignored by the mighty, were the first to pledge themselves, followed by others who found courage in the fire of Marcus's voice. Back in the chamber, chaos swirled. But the tide had shifted. The speaker's light pulsed unsteadily. You would have us gamble everything on open war? Marcus did not hesitate. It is no gamble. It is the only chance we have. And in the roar of voices that followed, it became clear. The galaxy was awakening. Not all were convinced. Some still clung to fear. But enough had been stirred that momentum could not be stopped. A coalition was forming, one born not of treaties written in peace, but of a single human's refusal to bow to despair. Later, historians would mark this day as the true beginning of the War of the Harrowed. Not when the First World fell, not when the fleets clashed, but here, in this chamber, when a young species with nothing but courage dared to speak the truth. Marcus Darren stood amidst the storm, his voice still echoing in the minds of those who heard it. He knew the price would be high, entire civilizations would bleed, but he also knew something greater. The galaxy would fight, and all because one human diplomat had dared to shout when others chose silence. The Galactic Senate was a cathedral of power, its chamber a vast living sphere suspended over the molten heart of Aurus Prime. Each seat towered like a throne, occupied by rulers whose empires spanned thousands of years. Their voices reverberated against the chamber's crystalline walls, deep with authority, sharp with arrogance. But on this day, authority was a mask. Beneath the gilded speeches, fear was the true ruler. The Dominion Ascendant, a rising empire forged in blood, had issued its demand. Tribute from every world, submission in exchange for survival. And shockingly, many senators supported compliance. The "Dominion is unstoppable," rasped Lord Gier of the Veleth Consortium, his metallic voice cold. "Better to kneel and live than resist and burn. A controlled surrender preserves civilization." Nods, chittering agreements, silent assent. The chamber reeked of it. Cowardice wrapped in diplomacy. At the farthest tier sat the newest, smallest delegation, humanity. Their diplomat, Celine Ward, sat silent, her dark eyes scanning the chamber. Humans had been admitted to the Senate only recently, dismissed by most as irrelevant provincials. Many had expected her to remain quiet, to observe while her betters debated the galaxy's fate. But Celine had not come to watch. She had come with fire. When the speaker finally turned to her, the chamber buzzing with its false consensus, Celine rose. She was tall for a human, but against the towering insectoid monarchs and colossal reptilian kings, she looked fragile. Her voice, however, carried like a blade of glass. "I have listened. I have heard words of compromise, words of tribute, words of surrender." Her gaze swept the tiers, unflinching. "But what I have not heard is truth." A ripple of annoyance passed through the chamber. Several delegates shifted in their seats. Selene raised a slender hand. "Because truth has been hidden from you. Because this Senate is not merely debating. It is being deceived." The hall stirred uneasily. With a gesture, Selene activated her console. A hollow screen flared to life above her. Streams of encrypted data, intercepted transmissions, financial records traced to hidden accounts, and then faces. Prominent senators, their secret meetings recorded, their agreements with Dominion envoys displayed in damning detail. Gasps rippled like thunder. "You would have us kneel," Selene said, her voice rising. "Not because it is wise, but because some among you have already sold us to the Dominion. You speak of survival, yet you line your pockets with the price of our chains." The chamber exploded in shouts. Some delegates leapt to their feet, furious. Others screamed denial. A few sat frozen, guilt carved plainly on their faces. Selene pressed on, her words cutting through the uproar. "You call humanity young, naive. But it is youth that sees clearly what you have forgotten, that freedom bought with submission is not freedom at all. You are willing to trade the galaxy's future for a false peace, but peace built on slavery is a coffin." Her voice dropped, sharp as a whisper, yet carrying to every ear. "Do you not see? The Dominion does not want allies. It wants dominion, and you have helped it tighten its grip." The speaker's light flickered violently. "Human, you have overstepped. These accusations are reckless." "Reckless?" Celine's eyes burned. "Reckless is handing over entire civilizations without a fight. Reckless is pretending corruption is wisdom. What I bring is not accusation, it is revelation." She thrust her hand toward the hall, her voice rising like a storm. "And now I give you a choice. Will you follow the cowards who have betrayed you, or will you rise?" The words rang through the silence that followed, silence heavy with shock and shame. Then Celine's voice thundered, carrying with a conviction no one could ignore. "Let this chamber be remembered, not as the place where the galaxy was sold into chains, but as the place where we broke them. I call you now, not to silence, not to surrender, but to arms. Rise, and fight for every world that still breathes free air." Her final words cracked like thunder. The hall erupted. Some senators shrieked in rage, their corruption laid bare. Others shouted in agreement, their voices trembling with newfound courage. Factions formed in an instant, the chamber splitting into fury and fire. But above the chaos, Selene stood tall, her face hard, her eyes unwavering. Outside the chamber, the speech spread like wildfire. Across 1,000 systems, her words were broadcast. Worlds that had felt abandoned suddenly saw hope. Colonies long resigned to submission whispered rebellion. Armies that had been ordered to stand down lifted their banners once more. On slave worlds under Dominion rule, the spark lit uprisings. On free planets, recruitment surged overnight. Selene's call to arms shook not just the Senate, but the galaxy itself. Inside the chamber, the speaker tried to restore order, but the tide had turned. One by one, voices of power rose, not in defense of surrender, but in defiance of it. The Dracon warlord roared, claws striking the floor. "The Dominion will choke on Dracon steel! We stand with humanity!" The insectoid queen raised her glittering arms. "The hive will not serve! We rise!" Even some who had been exposed as compromise cowered beneath the fury of their peers. Their power was broken, their plots undone. Selene's chest heaved as she lowered her hand. She had risked everything, her credibility, her life, but it had been worth it. For in that moment, she saw the truth. The galaxy would no longer kneel, and the call to arms, born from the voice of one human, had begun a war not of despair, but of defiance. Historians would remember the day the galaxy changed. They would speak of corruption exposed, of courage reborn, but more than anything, they would speak of Selene Ward, the human diplomat who stood alone in a chamber of cowards, and spoke the words that ignited rebellion. The galaxy would burn in war, but it would burn free.